Our story begins in ancient Egypt, a land of great wealth and power. But for the Israelites, it was a place of suffering. For generations, they had lived as slaves under the Pharaoh, forced into backbreaking labor and treated with cruelty. Enter Moses, a man with a unique past. Born an Israelite but raised in Pharaoh's palace, Moses fled Egypt after a mistake turned his life upside down. He had been living quietly in the desert, tending sheep, when something extraordinary happened. It was God, speaking to Moses through a burning bush. He had a mission for Moses: return to Egypt and lead the Israelites to freedom. Though scared and uncertain, Moses agreed. Armed with God's promise and his brother Aaron for support, he set out for Egypt. Back in Egypt, Moses went straight to Pharaoh with a bold demand: "Let my people go so they may worship God in the wilderness." But Pharaoh's heart was hard. He refused, saying, "Who is this God that I should obey him? The Israelites will stay as slaves." And so began a battle of wills. God sent Moses to warn Pharaoh, but Pharaoh refused to listen. Then came the plagues. One by one, God sent plagues to show his power and force Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. First, the Nile River turned to blood. Then came frogs, gnats, and flies. Livestock died. People were struck with boils. Hail destroyed crops, and locusts swept through the land. Darkness fell over Egypt for 3 days. Each time, Pharaoh would plead for the plague to stop, but as soon as it did, he changed his mind. His heart remained stubborn. The final plague was the most devastating. God warned that every firstborn in Egypt would die, from the Pharaoh's child to the lowest servant. But God gave the Israelites a way to protect themselves. He instructed them to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb. That night, the angel of death passed through Egypt, sparing only the houses with the blood. This was the first Passover, a night of both sorrow and deliverance. Pharaoh, broken by the loss, finally relented. He ordered Moses to take the Israelites and leave Egypt. With hearts full of hope, the Israelites began their journey to freedom. But Pharaoh's change of heart didn't last long. As the Israelites reached the Red Sea, Pharaoh and his army came after them. Panic set in. But Moses, trusting God's promise, stretched out his staff over the water. In a miracle, the Red Sea split in two. The Israelites crossed safely, but when Pharaoh's army followed, the waters crashed back down, sweeping them away. The Israelites were free at last. They sang songs of praise, celebrating God's power and faithfulness. But their journey was far from over. Ahead lay a long road through the wilderness, filled with challenges and lessons. Yet through it all, they carried the promise of a better future, the land God had promised them. The story of the Exodus is one of courage, faith, and God's unwavering love. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, deliverance is possible. It's a story of freedom, not just from physical chains, but from fear, doubt, and despair. And it's a reminder that with faith, we too can face our greatest challenges and walk toward a brighter future. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May the lessons of the Exodus inspire you to trust, persevere, and believe in the power of deliverance.